Welcome, everybody. This is a live interview today conducted by United Realty of Canada. Mr. Hunter Milborne from Milborne Group is going to be our keynote speaker, and we are going to be talking about the state of pre-construction projects in this crisis of 2020.
Mm-hmm.
So again, Mr. Hunter Milborne is the main speaker, and the main host conducting the interview today is going to be Pat Javdan. And supporting this interview and moral support is also Mr. Alex Hanchin. I'm going to talk a little bit about Mr. Hunter. Mr. Hunter Milborne is the president and CEO of Milborne Real Estate. The Canadian Business Magazine recognizes Hunter Milborne as the Dean of Condos. He has firmly established Milborne Group as the dominant force in the Canadian condominium community. And his high measure of his success is evident in the large volume of the repeat business that has been secured. A little bit about Mr. Pat Javdan. Mr. Pat Javdan is the broker of record of United Realty. He has 20 years of experience specialized in the pre-construction condos and residential market. And by design, he is the design engineer by profession working at General Motors. And we also have Dr. Alex Hanchin, General Manager of United Realty of Canada. And Alex is a microbiologist and a doctor by profession for more than 25 years. And out of that 12 years, in experience in real estate, specialized in commercial and the residential market. We are going to start the interview very soon, and all this information about the interview is going to be recorded on the webinar, and it's going to be posted on the above website. And if you have any questions, about the projects and the condos, you can also register those questions at urock365.com. So I'm going to give it to Pat right now. Pat, so you can start the interview right now with Mr. Hunter Milborne. Go ahead, Pat.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you very much for your help. And thank you all people that are listening right now. Realtors and other people as well. Thank you so much. Thank you again, Mr. Milborne from Milborne Group that accepted our invitation for this interview. Mr. Milborne, welcome. And many people are concerned, are worried, and they're confused. So what is your view about the state of pre-construction condominium market at this point and at this crisis?
Well, thanks, Pat, and I'd like to thank Jerry for those kind words of introduction to myself and you and Alex. And it's a wonderful thing that you helped organize here. So congratulations to you, and welcome to everybody who's listening. So most of the audience I probably know and know of us. So we've been selling pre-construction condominiums in the GTA for almost 45 years. So we've seen many ups and downs. We've seen the Great Recession of 2007. We've seen 9/11. The one thing we do know is that whenever there's a crisis, the crisis always ends and things come back to normal. But I think that it's quite safe to say that we are in a very strange and unfamiliar and unprecedented territory right now, because we had SARS. That was a serious thing. And hopefully it prepared us for a little bit of this COVID-19 issues. But, we've never really experienced anything like this. It's an unprecedented condition. And, we're really just feeling our way, many of us.
I lost, Jerry, I lost Mr. Milborne.
No, that's fine. You can talk.
Okay, sure. Mr. Milborne, how long do you think this problem will last? I mean, problem especially in pre-construction condominium right now. People are buying right now, or they're waiting?
Put on mute.
Yeah, we're right in the middle of a launch right now with Lantera, and it's called Notting Hill, which is a project at Kipling and Eglinton. So it's a transit stop. Multi-phase master plan community called Notting Hill. She, for the Platinum Group, have experienced it. It had been 3 months ago or 6 months ago, but it's doing, I think it's safe to say it's doing surprisingly well. And you know, there are people who still want to purchase, and we just have to change the way we do business. You know, we're basically doing everything remote because, I mean, I think that if you listen to most business people and most individuals, the overriding prerequisite in today's world is to stay safe. You know, we haven't heard words before like social distancing and flattening the curve, and you know, all of these are part of our everyday lexicon and language today. So I think that, you know, the overriding prerequisite for us is our staff, our customers, our broker partners. So, you know, the most important things are to stay safe, stay at home, you know, do only what's necessary face to face. If you do have to meet with somebody, you know, stay, you know, 2-3 meters away. And it's, people are accepting it and used to it. And, you know, necessity is really grocery store shopping. So people are getting used to that. So what we're doing now with this particular launch is that we're doing virtually everything by video, by remote, by DocuSign. So nobody's coming to a sales office. Nobody's doing it. Everything is by email. Everything is as remote. And it's actually doing quite well.
Is any condominium project has been affected, canceled or delayed, or will be canceled or will be delayed because of this situation?
You know, I don't think so. I think that when you look at the life cycle of one of these large condominium projects, you know, for the developer to purchase the land, to get it approved. I mean, typically when we as brokers, listing agents, selling agents get involved, the project's already had a 2 or 3 year life cycle of acquisition and approval process. So we come in, and from the time we get involved, it's typically 4 to 5 years. You know, it's 6 months of pre-sales, it's 6 months to get permits to start, it's 3 to 4 years of construction. So nobody knows how long this pandemic is going to last before it gets back to normal. But I think we do know that it will get back to normal. The demand doesn't go away. So whether it's 90 days or 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, who knows how long it will be, but that as a delay in a project could affect the project's profitability. It could affect, you know, the delivery dates, but there's no project that I know of right now that's significantly delayed or certainly not canceled because of this.
Great. In general, I know real estate market in general is kind of stopped. How do you see the future of pre-construction in general?
Well, you know, I think in the long run, the future of pre-construction is very bright. I mean, you know, the world deals in US dollars. Right now, the Canadian dollar is trading at a big discount to the US dollar. So when people come from other countries with US dollars, they get a big discount. If we look at the last recession, you know, when Lehman went out of business in 2008, you know, it wasn't a health-related issue. It was more of an economic issue. Today, it's a health issue that's causing the economic issue. But in the first 3 quarters of 2008, we sold about 16,000 pre-construction condos. Not too many in the last quarter. In the first quarter of 2009, we didn't sell too much either. It was about a 6-month drought from October through December of 2008 and January through March of 2009. But both 2008 and 2009 ended up at about 16,000 sales in the total pre-construction volume, you know, not counting resales. And that was pretty close to the 10-year average of between 2000 and 2010. So the market was affected in that there was about a 6-month gap where there was a very significantly decreased volume, but resale prices dropped a little bit, but the pre-construction prices didn't really change very much because people just, they either bought or they didn't buy. Developers didn't, you know, reduce the prices or panic, and things came back to normal within about 6 months, 7 months. So that was the only and most recent similarity that we can look back to.
Many companies, they're offering a special, offers, kind of a compelling offer that encourage people to come and buy for investors, for buyers. And I know some companies, they're doing it right now. Do you think the pre-construction condo project could offer such a compelling offer? For example, let's say longer period of deposit time, or a smaller deposit time, or for example, let's say they said, okay, 6 months, only pay 5,000, the rest pay it later. Any special offer they're thinking about it, or they have it right now?
Well, typically in terms of general incentives, I mean, there's always incentives when we start a project, but there's no particularly different incentives today than there was 3 months ago or 6 months ago. But I think you hit the nail on the head. I think what you'll find is that as projects come out, they'll be a little bit more lenient with the deposit structure, just to make it a little bit easier for people to project out into the future to purchase. But if you really analyze the economics of these projects, by the time you figure out the developer's costs, the land costs, the hard costs of construction, the soft costs of everything related, a profit requirement that's normal, they really can't sell for less. So they won't sell for less, but they'll I think play with the terms where they can. That you hit the nail on the head when you hit on the deposits, because I think those are things. I mean, we had projects that were scheduled to open in April and May, and they may be deferred a little bit. But I know that when they do come back, they're going to have different deposit structures that'll be a little bit more stretched out. So I think what you'll see in the next couple of months is you'll see some projects that will launch. You may not see a 500 or 600 unit building launch, but you may see a 150 unit building launch, because it's much easier to get to a pre-construction sales target of 2/3 or 75%.
Mm-hmm. So at this time, there is no special offer. At this time, they might be in a month or two, right?
Well, no, I think even today you'll see, I mean, the developers, I think on things that have come out, the deposits are, a little bit more stretched out than they might be otherwise, but it's not significantly different. I mean, I think if you really look at it, if somebody wants a resale, if they are buying to move up to something bigger, down to something smaller, somebody needs to lease. I mean, the resale market is much more need driven, whereas our pre-construction market is somewhat discretionary. But, there's always brokers that will have clients that want to purchase, and they don't want to wait. They know they can maybe get a better selection of unit. They can get easier access because the competition isn't quite as great. So we're selling at pretty much all our sites. And I know we're going to talk a little bit about which sites are selling well right now. But I think that, the main thing is the developer has the ability to extend some of those deposits, especially because of the long life cycle of these projects in some cases.
Mm-hmm. Great. I got another question. Almost everybody now, they're self-isolating, social distancing, we are staying at home. So what recommendation do you have for investor buyers? And also what recommendation do you have for realtors? Realtors also confused. They don't know what to do, how to do their job right now, they're home. So for both group, what do you recommend?
Yeah, listen, I think that again, the overriding prerequisite is to stay healthy, right? And to take the government's advice.
Definitely.
If you look at what the federal government's done, the provincial governments and the municipal governments, what they've done in terms of, kind of locking things down and encouraging people to stay at home. I mean, I've been pretty much at home now for about 2.5 weeks, working out at home. But I mean, we have a full day where we're on a lot of video conference calls, a lot of Zoom calls, Skype calls, conference calls. So we're just as busy as we always have been. I think one of the other pieces of good news that's out there a little bit, I don't know whether it's widely known, but we have a lot of friends in China, in Beijing and Shanghai, and there was some reports that came out of there, both official, and I've talked to some of our friends and partners there. They were, 60 to 90 days ahead of the curve for us. I mean, they started in December, right? They started getting cases. China was very quick to act and sort of locking things down. So they peaked with a lot of cases, and it curve flattened. And so now they're, let's say, 60 to 90 days ahead of us in that cycle.
Mhm.
But if you talk to people, I talked to a lady just a few nights ago who lives in Shanghai, and she said that things are not 100% back to normal, but pretty back to normal. You know, malls are reopening, restaurants are reopening, movie theaters, gyms. You know, there's basically people around, and they have very, very few new cases. If they do have a new case, it's usually somebody that's coming from somewhere else. So, you know, I think that's a good reason for us to be optimistic here, and hope that all of the actions that the governments have taken, the federal and provincial municipal governments, are gonna work, and to stay apart. And we've been, you know, getting a lot done. We signed a listing agreement the other day with a new developer with a project in Hamilton. So, you know, we're I wouldn't say it's business as usual. It's
Mhm.
business as unusual, but it's
Yes.
basically still business, right?
Yes, yes, yes. So let's say somebody wants to buy a pre-construction unit right now. So what's the procedure? They go, they take a look at the floor plan right now, they fill out the worksheet, they send it. How this signing agreements, bringing a check, how does it work this?
It's basically, we can do it 100% where, you know, with terms of what the selling broker might do to his client, if they want to meet, that's up to them. But we've got our system set up that, you know, no one has to come to the sales office to sign anything, to drop off checks or whatever. We can do it totally remote, totally by phone, totally by video. And like I said, this Notting Hill project is the biggest example that we have right now. We released 200 units. And, you know, in a normal world, they would have been sold probably in about 2 weeks. And I think that, you know, we're probably going to get moved about 2/3 to 3/4 of them in maybe 2 to 4 weeks. It'll be a little bit longer just because we have a little more cumbersome process, because we send stuff out. It takes a little longer to get it back. But, you know, there's definitely still demand, and it's working as well as it can be expected to work. You know?
Okay, great. Do you have any specific project right now that you recommend investor or buyer should buy right now?
Yeah, well, for many of those who know, I mean, you know, the GTA condo market over the last 5 years, the slowest year was 2018, where we sold about 22,000 units in the whole GTA. And the busiest year was 2017, where we sold about 36,000. You know, last year was about 28,000. So our firm, at any one given time, we might have between 20 and 30 projects on the market. And we've been selling in those last 5 to 10 years about, in some years 18%, in some years 22%. So let's say an average of about 20% of the market. So about 1 out of 5. So, you know, of the 30 odd projects that we have on the market now, like I said, the one that's right in that launch mode right now is Notting Hill. But the ones that are actually selling the best are, you know, we released a few months ago 80 townhouses in Downsview for Mattamy, and the sales office has been closed, and they're you know, doing business remote. There's 40 stacked townhouses that are in the 700,000 to 800,000 range, and 40 street towns that are in the sort of $850,000 to $1 million range, and they've been selling quite well. There's another project in Port Credit called Tanu that's doing well. Lakeside, which is the big Greenland project, you know, the one at Sherburne and Lakeshore. We've been writing good business there. River and Fifth, the Broccolini one on River Street, which is about to start construction very soon. There's 2 boutique type projects in the beaches. One called Heartwood, which is at Queen and Woodbine. I mean, it's a fantastic neighborhood in the beaches. And one called Poet for, you know, very good locations. Stockyards, which is a Marlin Spring project on St. Clair near Kiel. And Pemberton has one in Stouffville called 9th and Main, which has been selling steadily. So those are probably the ones that are doing the best. And there's another Marlin Spring project that is supposed to open towards the end of April and around the 1st of May. It's a mid-sized project around 140 to 150 units. You know, the decision is still being made whether that will go as scheduled or whether it will be postponed a little bit. We can keep everybody up to date. I know that, you know, Pat, I'd like to congratulate Pat on his efforts tonight too, because, you when Pat called me, and Pat and I've been friends for many years, and I said, he told me what he was going to do, and I said, well, why do you want to do this? And he said, well, because I think it's a good thing to do, and it's informative. It helps other brokers understand. So I think that, we're all self-motivated to do well in our businesses, but I'd like to congratulate him
Thank you so much.
having the initiative and ability to communicate with everybody else and help them in this kind of difficult period,
Thank you so much. Because I think we have, Jerry, we have only a few minutes left, right? How many minutes left?
I think we have another 10 more minutes. So
10
I
more
think
minutes.
we're good to go. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, Mr. Milborne, do you have any other thoughts that you want to share with buyers, investors, realtors that give them motivation, give them, power to, get out of their cocoon and they start, working not as usual, but in different way?
Well, one of the things that I started to do was I just started to follow up with a lot of people by phone.
Okay.
And I think that, it's difficult and dangerous to make predictions. Like if a client asks, like, when is this going to be over? Or,
Right.
it's hard to predict. But I think that if you take this extra time and say to yourself, look, I'm going to basically go through my database and call people for two reasons. One, to reconnect business-wise, but also personally, because, I think that everyone would agree that business is important, but the single most important thing is to just stay healthy.
For sure. For sure.
And I think that the way we need to stay healthy is to listen to what the governments are saying and really respect those. But I notice, walking on the street or in the grocery store, nobody gets offended, when they back up away and, try to stay 2 meters away from each other and, on those necessary trips to the store or whatever. So I think that, the overriding prerequisite is to stay healthy and just rely on technology, because there's so many great tools that we have today that 25 years ago we didn't have in terms of the video conference and just what we're doing right now.
Yeah, for sure.
This is a meeting that basically in some countries would be illegal. I talked to a guy today and he said, if 10 years ago you said that we would live in a country where working is illegal and pod is legal, that nobody would have believed you. Right?
Yeah, that's true.
Well, because some jobs are not
Yes.
necessary services, so it's not kosher to work.
Exactly.
So I really think that the important message is to keep that focus on the medium to long term, and because we know that it's going to return to normal, we just don't know when. We have to stay focused in the meantime and keep in touch with people and keep supporting people and just follow those, keep isolated, social distancing, and just, don't shake hands, wash your, just those basic little things all the things, there's that book, Everything I Ever Need to Know I Learned in Kindergarten, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, we have to maybe, go back to those basics and then I think a lot of the business we can do on the phone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. If any question, I don't know, Jerry, is anybody send a chat question? Is it a specific question for Mr. Milborne or no?
No, nobody has sent any questions.
But the other thing that we could do is between Pat, like if Pat has an email database of the people on the call or people that, and we could send something out a couple of times a week just as an update to this, right?
Right.
And just say, look, here's Notting Hill. Like right now, we don't know how many of those worksheets are going to turn into deals, and we don't know how many of those deals are going to firm up. That we'll find out over the next 1 week to 3 weeks, right? So I think those are going to be very important statistics, because if I know those and communicate those, then that's going to, if it's good results, then why wouldn't we share that news with people, right?
Definitely, definitely.
So I'm happy to do that, or if you want to do this again in 2 weeks or 4 weeks.
Oh, perfect, perfect. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
There is
Actually,
one more. There is
yeah.
one more question from Ida, and she wants to know regarding deposits. How are you guys taking those deposits? Electronically, by scans of checks? Can you please tell us a little bit about that?
We're taking, most of them are still by check. If somebody wants to wire, they can, but most of them are by check, but they're basically, dropped off at a concierge or at an office. So nobody really has to be in contact with anybody to drop them off, right?
Can you guys scan the checks?
Well, you can't deposit a scan check, but you have to deposit an original. But I mean, basically, we have a system whereby, you know, nobody has to really come into contact with anybody to deliver a check, right?
Okay. Thank you.
I'm going to ask other people, Alex, if has question, or I think also we have Masood with us. If you have any specific question regarding pre-construction condominium. Maybe next time, Mr. Mayor, maybe next time we open this chat. I don't know if it's open or not. We can ask people also live, they send their question.
Yeah, if we have questions in advance.
Yeah,
then
put it
can,
in a question, or even live, you know, live when we are talking. So
Yeah.
some people can, they send a question, then you can answer it, or like that. So
yeah, what we have done, Pat, just so that you know, and Mr. Hunter, you know, there is a website, urock365.com. So any of the agents or brokers, if you have a question specific to pre-construction condos, go to the website, and then there is a button where you click on the button for ask the question, and then put in your question over there, and we will respond back to you. Pat or Mr. Hunter or Alex will respond back to you.
perfect.
Yeah.
So I would like to take this opportunity to let everybody knows that we're going to have these webinars 3 times per week, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And every time we're going to announce the next topic, what would be. So for Monday, we're going to talk about how to generate leads, hot leads from home. This is especially designed for realtors at home. So Jerry is going to help us to explain more about this lead generation. Again, I'm going to thank you, everybody who joined us today. Please keep connected. And thank you very much, Mr. Hunter Melbourne. That was great. And thank you. I appreciate that you accepted our invitation and you give us great information. Hopefully we can have you again for different occasion.
I'd love to. And again, congratulations and thank you
so much
for the initiative to set it up, Pat.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, and goodbye, everybody. See you Monday. Thank you.